Hi everyone, it's Lynda from Banjo's Bead House with a redo of our Facebook Friday for this week. For those of you who missed it, I've already deleted the really bad video from earlier today where I completely lost audio, and at least I can see on my audio mix. For now, I still have audio. So today we are doing the third in our Seed Bead September projects. Yes, I know it's October, but the Bead with Lynda box had 3 projects, so I knew I was going to extend into October and have a bit of fun with everybody. So we've been taking you on a adventure down the path of seed bead embroidery, one of my favorite techniques of the last decade. And what I wanted with this particular one was to really give you a choose your own adventure, to the extent that that's kind of as far as I got with mine before I put the box together. The other two, I had a finished sample, a finished prototype. This one I kind of never got back to. I added some beads to it today in the aborted live, we'll call it. So I'm not going to go back and revisit that. And since I've got home in the last 10 minutes, a surge of creativity has hit, which has been a really nice thing after a really crazy week. And I've actually changed tack a little bit and done some work on it, and have now got an idea of where I want to take it. So I guess that's my silver lining of abandoning that and starting afresh. So I'm going to tip you guys down and walk you through what is in the box that everyone gets to play with and where I'm starting to play with mine. So let's transition. Whoops, sorry. It's a different setup because I'm at my home studio, so it's the setup's a little trickier, so I'm just adjusting. So on the mat in front of me now is kind of a representation of everything that was thrown at you guys for this particular challenge. You're only missing the blue felt and the backing suede, which I need to go find my working piece. So this box started off with this fun acrylic piece that reminds me of a peacock in colors, in that it's throwing off blues and emeraldy greens and a lot of gold, more gold under these lights. So it was the fun piece. Again, it's a flat back, it's acrylic, but it was a fun starting point because I loved all the line details and things where you could go. One of the things I've been slowly adding to the range of late is different flower shapes. So we've got some tiny little baby ones. These are all in a jet AB finish. Then I had these bigger ones, and then this kind of medium size. So there's something I get asked for a lot in the shop, and we've been adding some different options, and I will get these guys added to the range. I've just got to pick a range of colors because there's quite a few of them. Um, I found some fun little twisted bugle beads in a nice goldy tone that I thought, drew out the line shapes. I thought they could be fun to play with. One of the things I also get asked for a lot is tiny, tiny stones, which are great for seed bead embroidery. These are 2 mil in the blue sandstone. So there is a little bit of glitter in them. So they're kind of fun and a little bit different. I know we've got down to 3 mil on the wall in the shop. I'd never played with 2 mil, and they're fun. This is a hematite version. It's kind of reminding me of fire polish, like 2 mils, but it's obviously gold plated. So again, a little bit different. Um, and then these guys are really fun. And these guys are something you'll start to see a little bit more of in the new year. This is the equivalent of a quarter tiller, if I can get my camera to focus on my finger. So it's shaped like a quarter tiller. It's as skinny as a quarter tiller. And you have your 2 holes, but it's actually hematite that's gold plated. So a couple of my suppliers are starting to release, I'm going to call them tiller beads, but made from stone. So there's some fun colors and options coming through that I'm going to explore in some of the things that we're doing next year. And then I've got some seed beads. We had the 930, which is the Silverline Transparent Dark Teal. We had the 95111, which is the Duracoat Gold Navy Blue, and then some 94202. My brain will catch up eventually. The Duracoat Gold, and they're in a 15. I'm contemplating adding some 11s to this for where I'm now going, but we'll have a little bit of fun. So the primary thing I wanted to share with you guys in this session outside of play as a technique was a different way of bezeling around a cab when you are doing seed bead embroidery. But I didn't want to necessarily do straight round the edge like I've done on this one, because I wanted to play with some of the flowers and I wanted to see how they might work. So I'm just going to move my camera so I've actually got some working room and show you what I've been playing with. So for the last 10 minutes, I've just been kind of playing with some flowers. So I've mixed in all three of the different shapes of the flowers and just used the little 2 mil hematite just to be their anchor. So it was as simple as basically, sorry, I'm also doing a 2 needle technique, so I'm trying not to mess my needles. Simple as popping your needle up, dropping this guy on, picking up the 3 mil, and then going straight back down through that hole and anchoring wherever you want it to be, which I obviously don't want in the middle of my felt there. But yeah, so very similar to the technique I demonstrated in the brooch, where we did the anchoring using the 15s and the size 11 C beads, which I then replicated with 8s on the brooch. So the bottom just kind of has like a little flower crown. Now this could also be now the top, and I could just do really plain to the bottom and leave that as the top and have my bail come out of here. That's the fun of just playing around. This is what works for you guys. So this is what I'm now thinking. I was originally thinking of having just a single flower up here because I found my sketch, and having my bail go this way. But now I'm thinking as I drop it into the middle of my beads, I might just do a flower crown and just bring a couple of little beads down, and play with it there. I've got some blue tassels in the shop. I'm not sure if I chucked one of those in your bags. Sorry if I didn't. And I'm now thinking, doing a tassel drop off there and wrapping some beads around it. I don't know. That will be something we can explore in next week's live. But for now, I want to show you the 2 needle technique for adding some seed bead detail around the edges and how you can slip in another layer of beads on top, so that from a technique perspective, you've learned a couple of new things. So as I said, I have 2 needles attached to my work, so I'm just going to figure out where they are. When you're starting this, I just started with a little slip. I had about 2/3 of my thread going on to one needle and the rest going on to the other needle, and they are now very twisted. So I'm just trying to get them apart. Yes, we have achieved that. So now I'm trying to work out which is my longer one. Okay, I need to swap them around. Sorry, got carried away playing, and but that's the fun of when you give yourself a chance just to sit and play. So on my thread with my longer needle, I am going to pop up just through here at the back of that little bead, a little flower bead. I'm just trying to navigate my way around that cab. And I don't know whether I want to play with a mixture, so I am going to pick up a color mix and see if I like this. And if not, I can take it off. So the fun of the 2 needle approach is you actually can set up all of your beads in advance, lay them around, and then we're actually going to use the second needle to tack it down. So I've just picked up green and blue seed beads. I don't really like that effect, and that's okay. This is, part of the fun of experimenting. So I'm going to go back to my original idea of just the blue. Now I could be being thrown off with this teal purely because of the blue felt, and that is highly possible. But this blue is also one of my favorite seed beads to work with, so I could also just be a little biased that way. So you'll just see me, I'm just going to pick up a huge run of these navy Duracoat beads. So we're going to get a lot of these on. So this technique is really handy when you are doing, you can do it with a lot of design work because you can set it up and make sure your beads are going to line up the way you want it. It's also handy when you're trying to get around, shapes and corners, because you can position your beads in and around. You can also get an idea of how your work is going to look in advance. Unlike the way where we did on the earring, where I was stitching down 4 beads at a time, this does give you a little bit more flexibility. And if you can learn to lighten off your tension, you do stop some of the puckering that I often get with some of my seed bead embroidery pieces on bigger scales. So this is fun when I've done things like my starfishes and my butterflies, or my dragonfly, I should say. And what I'm learning is when I'm working particularly on a frame now to control, more of my tension, it's about just getting the beads where I need them to sit naturally around a shape. So you can see that's got a beautiful shaping. So that's needle 1, that's my thread. So I'm putting needle 1 down and trying not to cross paths with needle 2. So now we have my second needle, and my second needle, we are now going to come, because that's completely movable, we are now just going to come up, and about every 4-ish beads, we're just going to come up past the cab and lock it in. So it's just a simple matter then. You just want to capture the thread basically, and you want to get between your seed beads so you're not leaving a thread path. So I am going to move that off the curve just so I can have a bit more control. So I can make sure that those beads are tucked up where I need them to be. And if they're not, it's fairly easy just to go, okay, that thread isn't quite right. Get that back to how I need it to be, and then just gently coax that thread where I do need it to be. But again, I'm just trying to not have uber tight tension. And doing this and filming, is trickier, but that's part of the fun, right? So we're just getting that down. So you can just see that thread nestled between that bead. So that's starting to lock down this thread path. This is where having a third hand would be very helpful, I will say. So again, I'm just coming up and just going back down. And all I want to do is just capture the thread. So it's a nice way, if I can keep this tension nice and loose, you're just locking that in. I'm not causing any of the puckering. I'm not causing any multiple strands of thread to be going through one bead more than the other, which can, for my work, often causes me to have, some buckling and bumpiness. So with this, I tend to get a much smoother outcome. So particularly, as I said, when I'm doing, large pieces or trying to create an intricate design with my seed beads, this is the technique I tend to now gravitate towards. But the one I showed you on the earrings is perfectly valid and what I would normally do if I was doing this size of piece. But it's always fun to try new techniques and add new skills into your arsenal when you get to play. So I'm just going to do a couple more. I'm just going to anchor around that corner, and then I'm going to show you guys how you can set a row of seed beads on top of this one. So, because to add a row next to it is very similar as you've seen in previous videos. It would just be come back here and literally stitch back through the felt. Pretty much a replication of what we are doing now if you're doing a 2-needle technique. But to add it on top, so it literally will sit up here and on top of those, is just a little trickier. So we will share that on as well. Okay, just a couple more to go. Hi Kelly, glad you are loving the colours. I do have to admit the peacocky teal, gold and navy is one of my favourites, and throwing in the Jet AB that's kind of got a blend of most of that is kind of fun. Oops. Corner does not want to hold. So as I'm doing this, you will notice I tend to do around corners, the loops maybe at like every 2 beads instead of every 4. It's just to give a little bit more control of the beads around the corner so they actually stay where I want them to. Oops. So that one's locked. And we'll just get one more little group in. So that is your 2 needle technique where, as I said, this thread is still coming out. It's attached to the other needle. It is running through all of those guys. And the second thread is just coming up and over, up and over, up and over, up and over, basically just to anchor down this thread and help you just get nice control. Now I probably need to add in another stitch there. That's fine. I can come back and do that. But what I want to show you before I disappear for the evening is how do I add that band of beads here. So I'm just bringing my working thread for now, which is my stitch over thread, back over here. And this is basically using the same technique we did with bezeling around the earrings. So I picked up 4 beads. And you can see I brought my thread up between those seed beads and the cab. And it's just a matter of then going down back between the seed beads and the cab and not pulling so tight that you actually pull them into the gap and create and force these guys out, but you just want them to be resting on top. So for me, this does call for a slightly looser tension. For me, this is kind of like, you've done all of your work on a bezel and you're just, edging it off in a different color, 15 to cinch it in, or, add another color. This is kind of the same effect, but just in a seed bead embroidery approach. Whoops. Sorry. I've got needles catching on my working thread. So again, I've just picked up 4, going back down, and just as we do with the slip stitch kind of approach, we're just going back up, back through the last 2. You've then got to tighten and then keep going. That to me it's a lot tighter. This is just a lot looser. The beads have got room to maneuver. So this you do lock down a lot more than this, but it's a matter of personal preference and what is going to work for the design that you are playing with. But I hope that is enough for everybody to get started. I am going to finish this off the same way we have done the others this week. So this was the other item that was in their box, is some O beads in this lovely gold color. So I will have this finished by the time we hit the next live and edged, and we will be working on how to actually turn this into a pendant with a bail and looking at a nice, simple, easy rope technique. And that will finish off the 3rd project for our Seed Bead September Bead with Lynda series. So thank you so much for joining me for the redo. I'm very happy with where this is at compared to option 1. It is a long weekend for those of us in Sydney. So, and I believe in other parts of the state too, but I'm focusing on home. So we are closed on Tuesday so that Mum and I can actually enjoy a long weekend ourselves and have a little bit of downtime because we are trading tomorrow being Saturday. But we will be closed on Tuesday. So the website, as always, remains open, but the retail store will be closed on Tuesday. I'll be getting this finished. If I can, I'll share some snaps of it on social media over the weekend. And I will see you guys next Friday for the final of the Bead with Lynda on our next Facebook Live. So I will see you guys then. Have a safe, creative, fun weekend. Bye for now.